Hi there, and welcome to Still Learning Podcast. I'm your host, Fortune Fowle, and if you're new here, welcome to a space that's all about progression, not perfection. The fact that we are becoming people, which means we have not arrived at who we're meant to be yet, but we are just getting to our destination. And so I invite you into this space, and happy Still Learning one day. Hi guys, I hope you're doing well. I hope your week is off to a great start. Honestly, guys, I have been feeling a bit under the weather for the last 2 weeks, and I am someone who doesn't like to say they're sick. Call me crazy, but I'm someone who doesn't like to say they're sick, and it's not because I don't believe that people can get sick or that cold, flus, all those things exist. Of course I do. I'm in the medical field, but I just strongly believe in the power of life and death lies in the tongue. So I just say things like, I'm under the weather, I am getting better, I am healed, I will be healed, really professing that over my health because I would rather profess that than sickness, okay? So I have been feeling a bit under the weather, so I do apologize if the voice is raspy, but here I am. And I am so excited to record today's episode. I don't even know if excited is actually the right term, because I think in today's episode I might just be reading myself to filth, but also maybe reading you. Like, we can be read together because I want to talk about managing expectations. I feel like right now what I've been living out is expectations versus reality. I don't know if you guys remember OG YouTube, because I am an OG YouTube lifestyle girly consumer. I absolutely loved lifestyle content. Bethany Moda, Alicia Marie, all the girlies, Miss Remy Ashton, that was what I was on. That was my grind. And they would always do expectations versus reality. And this is what I feel like I've been living out in my day-to-day life right now. And that has caused me to have to look at my expectations and what I'm expecting from people, what I'm expecting for myself, what I'm expecting for my family, and what am I expecting from God, and what is the reality of all of that. Because we can have many expectations, but I think one thing that I've been learning is that not all of our expectations are valid. Like, you should have expectations. You should have things that you expect from people. You should have standards, high quality standards. You should. I do not disagree with that. But I think I'm coming to understand that maybe not all the expectations that I held were healthy. And honestly, is that a shock? Is that a shock? I'm not shocked by that. That not all the expectations I held were healthy, and that, in fact, that they were rooted in things like trauma and insecurity and pride. I don't know. I feel like what's been happening is that God has been dismantling certain expectations I had because they were rooted in the wrong things. And honestly, they're just rooted in things that weren't rooted in Him. God calls us to have expectations. God has expectations for us, right? So having expectations aren't a bad thing. Having expectations for yourself and others is not inherently a bad thing. I think what can make it bad is the kind of expectations you have and what they're rooted in. And so that is what we're talking about today. Managing our expectations, how to set these expectations, and how do we know if there are healthy ones or ones that are actually very toxic to ourselves and those around us. So when it comes to me setting expectations, I think originally when I thought about the expectations that I had in my life and held, I had a lot of expectations for myself and not a lot of expectations for people. And if I did have a lot of expectations for people, it was definitely something that I wasn't necessarily conscious of, and I wasn't honestly keeping track if the people in my life were fulfilling these expectations. I was more focused on the expectations I had for myself. And I have a lot of expectations for myself. I am someone who overcomes perfectionism every single day. And as someone who is a perfectionist and can struggle with that, the expectations I hold for myself are very high. I just expect myself to constantly be performing at my absolutely best and highest level of self. And when I am unable to do that, and I know that's unrealistic. I don't need anyone to tell me that. I know that is unrealistic, but when I don't feel like I am, I don't feel good enough. And I know that's a lie. I know that's a lie, but it's just something that I constantly have to deal with and overcome, because if I feel like I'm underperforming, then I'm just like, am I being the highest version of myself that I can be? And you're not always going to be that. You can't outperform yourself every single day. Like, you really can't. And certain expectations I held for myself, such as just always being someone who's on time, always being someone who's reliable, always being someone who you can go to in your time of need, even when I am in my own time of need, always just being someone who has the answers and someone who can solve problems. I have recently stopped putting pressure on myself to be the solution to everyone in my life's problems and my own problems. And it's not even that anyone in my life was expecting me to be the problem solver. I put that expectation on myself. Like, it's understanding that there are expectations I have placed on myself that no one else has. No one else is holding me to. Not even God's holding me to. But I am holding myself in a chokehold of expectations that are suffocating me and invalidating all the ways that I do show up and am able to perform well in life. And it's weird. It's like giving yourself a performance evaluation when you think about the expectations you set for yourself. Like, it's very weird because, like, this isn't a job. This isn't corporate. Like, you're very much just living life and learning to be a human being. And everyone's a human being, and not everyone's perfect and gets it right every single time. And so dismantling the expectations that I have for myself to always be the one having it together, to be the solid rock and foundation, that is not possible. And the only solid rock and foundation is Jesus Christ. So I had to stop doing it. And honestly, it's something the Lord had to convict me on, because I just very much feel like if I don't provide the solution, I'm useless. But Fortune, you're not the answer to everyone's problem. You're not even the answer to your own problems 99% of the time. So how do you expect to do that for anyone else? So when it comes to me now determining what expectations I should hold for myself, I now try to approach it with grace and asking God, like, what do you expect of me? Like, I think those are the standards or expectations I should be holding for myself. And where I fall short, because I will fall short, how do I give myself grace for that? How do I forgive myself for that? And I would love in a separate episode to talk about self-forgiveness, because I know we talk a lot about forgiving other people, but I think one of the hardest things that we can do in life is learn how to forgive ourselves. And I think there's just a lot of times where I had to forgive myself for not feeling like I did enough, for not feeling like I am enough, when that isn't the case at all. And it is this external, unrealistic pressure that I place on myself to have it together 100% of the time. And it is suffocating. As I said it earlier, it is suffocating, and releasing myself of those expectations have been so freeing. And in doing so, little by little, kind of breaking down expectations of myself that aren't healthy, and standards that I've been holding myself to that no one else is holding me accountable to. What should I hold myself accountable to? I mean, I should hold myself accountable to being a good friend, a good listener, thoughtful, considerate, compassionate human being and individual. I should hold myself accountable in terms of reflecting Christ. That is an expectation I should have for myself, and showing love and grace and leading people in truth. That is an expectation I should have for myself that is rooted in my identity in Christ, and not these expectations that were rooted in insecurity, rooted in not feeling enough, rooted in feeling like if I don't do this, I'm going to lose the people in my life, rooted in not fitting a beauty standard, like dismantling false realities for myself. And I realize that oftentimes if we don't have a true understanding of our reality, we will have false expectations of ourselves and others. And so I am working through that right now, and I'm learning how to do that. I'm also learning how to just stop and pause and wonder if this is an expectation I can even meet. Is this a quality that I even can hold? Like, it is. And if I do want to hold that quality, if I do want to set this expectations, how am I going to meet it? I am very much so when it comes to even now acknowledging my expectations for other people and the people in my life, where I am now first asking, can I even meet that expectation myself? I want people who are honest and truthful with me and can tell me the hard truths and won't lie to me even when I don't want to hear it and I'm being stubborn. I still want people who are going to be honest and truthful with me because I know that in their truthfulness there's love and they only want what's best for me. But I cannot expect that from the people of my life if I'm not even doing that myself, if I'm not someone who is honest, if I am not someone who tells the truth, and I am not someone who is willing to have you be mad at them just because I said something that was actually for your betterment and not for your harm. And so putting into practice the expectations I have for other people. Am I able to do that to others? Am I able to show up for them in their time of need? And to what capacity can I do that to? In what way can I do that to? What within myself can I show up for people so that I can then expect these things from other people? And when it comes to expecting things from people, I think this is when it boils down to managing your expectations. Evaluate the person before you expect something from the person. I think we jump straight to the expectations without going through the evaluation process. Who are they? What are they capable of? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? And to put it in the most simplest ways, right? Just to give a simple example. If you are someone who expects your friends to always be on the phone with you and FaceTime all the time, talk all the time, then you may not be able to hold that expectation for me because I am not that friend. I am not the friend that you can call every day, be on the phone every day. I actually don't like being on the phone like 24/7. That's not my vibe. I prefer to text. I love a voice memo. Like we can go a couple of days without talking, weeks, maybe even months. I am good. I love you. Right? And I know you love me. And so maybe you won't have that expectation from me because you know that of me. And it's not that I'm not capable of like talking to someone on the phone every single day, but that is not something that I want to do. And if you have that expectation of me, you're going to be disappointed every single time. You're going to be disappointed often because that is just not something that I'm willing to do. I just don't want to do, if I'm being honest. And I can compromise. We can definitely find a balance. I'm willing to meet you where you're at. And I think a part of setting our expectations with people is not just thinking of ourselves all the time, but also thinking about where can we meet them at in the middle? Where can we come together? Where can there be compromise where maybe not both our needs are met 100%, but 75, 80, 20, like figuring that out. So evaluate the person first. What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? What are they able to give? What do they want to give? What are they not willing to give? What do they not want to give? So that you are not constantly setting yourself up for disappointment. You have to manage your expectations and make your expectations known. One of the things my therapist told me when I was in therapy is you want people in your life who aren't going to be passive aggressive, and you want people to tell you when they're upset with you or when they think you're upset with them. You want people to be very honest with you, because that is something that I really struggle with in my life because of how kind I am. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but because I try to be very nice and kind, a lot of people don't think that I can handle hard truths, and they fear that in telling me hard truths that I'm going to cry and it's going to be the end of the friendship, when I am someone in truth who loves that and delights in that. I grew up in a very honest and direct household, so I actually appreciate that a lot more, and I'm very adverse to passive aggressiveness. And so my therapist is like, that's great, that's wonderful, but you have to communicate that to people. You can't be expecting things from people when they have no idea this is even an expectation you had of them. How can they ever meet it if they don't even know that this was something you had from them? And that is something that I really had to learn. Communicate your expectations to the people in your life. What do you expect from them? What do you want from them? Let them know the standard so that they can know, is this something that I can meet? Is this something I even want to meet? And also give people the chance to meet them, because some people can surprise you and actually exceed your expectations when you communicate what exactly they are. If you're someone who expects your friends or the people in your life to go to every single important event, like in your life, any single major important event, graduation, birthdays, so on and so forth. Like, that is a huge expectation you have for the people of your life. And it can make or break relationships, because this is something that can make or break relationships, because part of being in a relationship with people is celebrating them, their wins being your wins too, their losses being your losses too, just supporting people in that way. And so for some people, it's a really big deal. Like, if a friend doesn't show up to their birthday, if their friend doesn't make up for it, like, making that expectation known and clear to them. Because for some people, it's like, oh, okay, something came up, it's okay that you didn't show up, that's okay. Like, some people, birthdays aren't that big of a deal. For me, birthdays and celebrations have become a very big thing to me. As I get older, I just realize how important it is, every single milestone in life that you're able to meet and accomplish, because it's not guaranteed that you will, and it's not guaranteed that you'll be able to witness every single milestone that an individual will go through who's currently in your life, because you don't even know how long they'll be in your life for. So for me, birthday celebrations are really important, and so I hold myself to this expectation, but I also wouldn't be upset if someone else held me to this expectation of expecting me to be at every celebratory thing, every single birthday. And though there are times where I may not be able to always meet that expectations, I do seek to make up for it when I can't. For example, recently I had a friend who, her birthday was coming up and she was having a birthday party, and I unfortunately was working and not able to make the birthday party, but I said, hey, I can't make this, but I really want to celebrate you. This is an incredible thing, and life is important and should be celebrated. And so can we do something together one-on-one when we're both free? Like, I want to treat you, I want to take you out because you are deserving of that, and I want to still celebrate you in this way, in any way, shape, or way, or form I can. And that is me meeting that expectation in a way, right? That is something that was just communicated. And it boils down to communication. A lot of this setting expectations for people, managing expectations for yourself and others, boils down to communications. Let's make it clear. People should know where they stand in your life. And some people can agree or disagree with this, but I don't think it's of God to leave people in confusion, because God is not a God of confusion. He's a God of clarity. So making your expectations, your standards, and where people stand in your life clear is very important. People should know. They should be able to determine for themselves, not just you determine in this evaluation process, can they meet this standard? Are they someone who I can rely on? Are they supportive? Are they someone who has wise counsel? Like, evaluate, observe, really understand who this person is before you start expecting things from them. I think about that with my job. Like, it is an expectation that a nurse should be compassionate and be kind and be there for you. Even though technically I'm a stranger taking care of you, this is the first time we're meeting. Like, there is an expectation for me as a nurse to display compassionate and loving care to you. This is an expectation you have of me, and this is a valid expectation to have of me. I mean, this is known. This is a standard. So that is an expectation that makes sense and that is healthy and that has been communicated that we can expect from one another. But when you have those moments where you don't communicate an expectation and it's not met, I imagine it is disappointing and it's hurtful. And now this is breeding grounds for resentment, for bitterness, for anger, for mistrust. You can't be reckless in your expectations, because when expectations are met, it really is that breeding ground for mistrust, for pain, for hurt, for bitterness, for resentment to start being able to build up and infiltrate in relationships. It can be that harmful. It really can be. They have a lot of weight, expectations. How do we manage this weight so it doesn't lead to this breeding ground of toxicity, of pain? So it doesn't lead to that. How do we navigate disappointment when people don't meet our expectations? Because they won't. No one's going to meet your expectations 100% of the time. They won't. So what do? You change your expectation of them, what you offer them? Sometimes you have to. Sometimes you have to because they can't meet it. When my friends are going through a really hard time in their lives, I don't expect them to always be able to be present for me like they were before they were going through a really difficult time in their life. My expectations of them in that season are going to shift. I may not be able to go to you as much as I need to. Or maybe in the season of our friendship, it's the expectation is that I am a lot more of a support. We're both supporters of each other, but I am more of a support system for you right now because of the season that you're in. And the expectation is that you would be that same kind of support system to me when I go through a hard and difficult season. And you will have grace for me when I'm not able to show up as the bestest of friend that I was previously in the previous seasons. That is an expectation that requires understanding that we both have, a mutual understanding that we have and that we are holding within this friendship. And so I'm not going to build resentment. I'm not going to build bitterness because maybe you're not checking in on me as much as I would like you to. Maybe it's me doing more of the checking in, but you're going through a really hard time right now. And so I can give you grace for that. I don't have to let bitterness and resentment feed into my heart because you're not meeting this expectation. There's context here for why you're not meeting this expectation. And I have to manage my expectations of you in this season right now because you can't meet it. Managing your expectation, it's a constant and seasonal process because it looks different every time. Expectations shift as people shift, as circumstances shift, as you shift. They change, and managing your expectations isn't a bad thing, it's a healthy thing. When your expectations of people and others change, that's not always a bad thing. I think sometimes you think it's a bad thing, but it's not. It means you are more conscious of your reality. You're more aware that this is my current situation and this is how I need to navigate it. And if my expectations aren't meeting my reality right now, then they need to change. Because when your expectations contradict your reality, it's really easy to fall into feeling like people aren't showing up for you, that you're not being fulfilled in certain ways. It's really easy to kind of slip into that wormhole of a thought pattern and thought cycle because there's such a contradiction to reality and your expectations. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, it's not easy. It's not easy when your expectations of people and others have to shift because you were disappointed because you thought they'll meet it. You thought they would show up for you and they didn't. You thought that they would call and they didn't. You thought that they would like you back and they didn't. Like, you thought that this was going to end up in a relationship and a business and a career opportunity, and it didn't happen that way. That is disappointing and it sucks. I'm going to tell you guys that right here, right now. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. Expectations versus your reality is not hard to deal with sometimes. But sometimes it's also great because they exceed your expectations. It's those times when they do show up, when they go above and beyond, when they hear you out, when they listen to you, when they are thoughtful and considerate of you in ways that you didn't expect. It's always exciting too, and that is your reality. And so you have to change your expectations from before because you realize your expectations before were really low. Now we need to make it higher. And before, maybe your expectations in certain situations were too high, and now you need to make it a little bit lower. Meeting people where they are at, meeting yourself where you're at, managing those expectations there is about meeting where you're at, that happy middle medium of expectation and reality. And that's where I'm at right now, guys. And I'm sure there's a lot of expectations that I still need to be dismantling, dissecting, and expectations that I actually need to be putting up, managing my expectations, seeing if the expectations I currently hold for myself, for my family, for my friends, with my relationship with God matches my reality. And if it doesn't, where do I need to change? Where do I need to pivot? So that's what I hold, what I expect is communicated well and thoughtfully, that there's mutual understanding of it for myself and for the other person involved, but also so that it can be healthy and I'm not creating breeding grounds for me to constantly be disappointed, constantly start feeling resentment or bitterness, but able to show grace and have compassion and understanding for others, but also give myself opportunities to be surprised when my expectations are exceeded, because God exceeds my expectations all the time. And I'm always delighted when he does. I'm like, wow, that's not what I expect. I got to set it higher. But God is different. He's 100% of the time always going to see my expectations, but kind of having that for people too and yourself too, because sometimes I shock myself. I'm like, wow, giving highbrow fortune, okay, higher caliber. Okay, let's bring this up a notch. Wow, we thought we were here, but we're here. Yeah. Like constantly reassessing your expectations. Some expectations that I held before aren't realistic for the reality I have now. They aren't conducive to it. And so I hope that as I am embarking on this journey and sharing with you guys the expectations that I'm learning to uncover and the expectations I'm learning to build up, that it also encourages you to start assessing your own expectations and evaluating them, seeing what they're rooted in. And I really do encourage that if you have any that are rooted in insecurity, rooted in not feeling valued enough, not feeling heard enough, rooted in trauma, let's reassess. Maybe go to therapy and see if those are only putting us in toxic cycles or if they can make room for healthy cycles to begin in our life. And so I would love to hear what you guys have to say, what you think in the comments below. How are you managing your expectation? Give me some tips, because I can learn from you guys. We're learning together. So give me some tips on how you've been managing your expectations. How do you set healthy expectations for yourself and the people in your life? I would really love to hear that down below in the comments. And I look forward to coming back to you guys again next week with another episode of Still Learning. Bye.